small rebel force has penetrated the shield and landed on Endor.
This is where the fun begins.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
This is Rebel Force Radio.
Your source for the Force.
Star Wars news and commentary.
With Jason Swank and Jimmy Mack.
I've seen Star Wars 500 times.
Star Wars #1!
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe. I suggest we use it.
Now it's time for Rebel Force Radio.
We would be honored if you would join us.
All right, well, pack your bags, lock up the house. Rebel Force Radio is going to Endor. That's right, Rebel Force Radio. Been invited to go to the Forest Moon Festival out in Northern California at the end of May 30th through June 1st, to be precise. So coming up later in the program, we're going to be talking to a couple of the creative forces behind this incredible festival that honors the original filming locations for the sequences in Return of the Jedi that take place on Endor. We're talking about Ewok Village. We're talking about Speeder Chase, all of that. So they're in their third year, but lots more coming up later on in the program. But we can confirm, and this has kind of been making the rounds a little bit on the Facebook page, but we can officially confirm tonight that Rebel Force Radio will be there. And we hope that those of you who are able to join us will do that. In addition, coming up on the program, we've got some news headlines. Of course, everyone's talking about Andor, including showrunner and creator Tony Gilroy. We have some really interesting quotes and interview highlights from Henry. Also, George Lucas. There's been a GL sighting, a new GL sighting, and cameras were there. And we've got some new insights from the maker himself, plus Sam Witwer, who's attached to that Maul animated series that was announced at Celebration Japan. He's talking about it, of course, and so much more. Also, if you watch the Andor after show this week, and I hope you did, you'll know that we're going to be announcing the winner of our Big Bull Airs customizable shoe store credit giveaway. All that and so much more here on Rebel Force Radio, your weekly source for the Force, and oh, so much more. If you're new to the program, my name is Jason, and with me, as always, my good friend and yours from Chicago, Jimmy Mack.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Star Wars fans. Back for more Rebel Force Radio. A second dose of Rebel Force Radio this week. As Jason said, we were with you earlier this week for the Andor after show, which was so exciting and exhausting, quite honestly. It was exhausting. But, hey, you know what? Me and Jason, we never run out of energy when it comes to Star Wars discussion. You like how I did that, Jason?
I do like how you did it. You sold it really well. No, I never tire of it. But
never tired.
I do get a little tired, you know. Just the body wants to shut. The mind keeps going, but the body is telling me you need to sleep. You need to go.
Tony
to bed
Gilroy
before.
famously said in an interview that the 3-episode blocks being dropped on us each and every week during Andor season 2 is going to be hell for the podcasters. And hey, we're still standing, so bring it on.
It's if that's hell, and I'll take hell. But I'm glad you brought up the blocks because that we call them arcs. Some people are calling them parts, but Tony Gilroy, they're blocks, and I think that is now canon. Andor blocks.
Yeah, those blocks are hitting us upside the head like Ferrix bricks, quite honestly. Because, I am staying up really late on those nights it drops. This week, I started watching right at 8 o'clock.
Right.
I was there. I was ready. I was ready to go. Got the bowl of popcorn, got the remote control.
Nice. Are you watching alone, or is the family watching with you?
Oh, no, I'm watching alone. I can't have any outside interference.
Would you allow the family to watch with you, or do they know that if it's new, fresh wars that they need to stay away?
Well, they know it's nothing we can schedule to watch together. Oh, Mike will be like, wait for me when I get home from work, or one of them will say that.
Yeah.
What time you get home from work, kid? 10 p.m.? Forget about it. I'm watching it the second this sucker drops. Everyone knows you can't arrange a stream. Let's watch the stream together. date with me. I'm watching it the second it drops, and I have to. It's a priority, and they know that. So I finished. I started at 8 o'clock, and I finished at 11:45. You know, the shows drop at 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 o'clock Eastern. 6 p.m. for you pampered Pacific Coast fans.
That must be nice. Hey, I just got home from work. Oh, hey, let's watch a little Andor.
Yeah. Got tons of time. Meanwhile, I finished that arc this week. Each episode was 54 minutes.
Yeah.
And so I finished it at around 11:45 p.m. Chicago time.
Mm-hmm.
Even let the music and the end credits play out a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there. I got the empty bowl of popcorn now.
Yeah, okay.
And soaking. I'm doing a little soaking. You're right, Jason. And a little bit of asking myself, what the hell did I just see? So immediately I move away from the comfortable television viewing area into the RFR studio, which I'm sitting in right now. And I pop that sucker back up on the screen and I watch it again.
That's how you do it. I was actually listening back to the after show on my commute home today, and I was listening to you talking about how you get 2 viewings. I'm like, how does he do it? How does he have the time?
Immediately
so you go
after.
back-to-back viewings.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I did back-to-back, and it always takes longer on my second watch because I'm taking notes, I'm pausing, I'm rewinding, I'm trying to soak in the entire story as much as I can. So I could only fit in 2 episodes before the clock hit that dreaded 2 a.m. And I said, well, if I go to bed now and I can wake up at 9, I could get 7 hours of sleep. And, I'm an old man. I need more sleep, damn it. So
I love the sleep math that you have to do.
There's lots of sleep math.
7 hours. And right.
Jason, you knew me back, years ago when I didn't sleep at all. A 4-hour night of sleep for me was all I needed.
Yeah,
but those days
bust my balls about needing like a normal amount of sleep, and and his old email address was like edit to smoke, like it was just no downtime. That was what he used to say. No downtime.
Always going.
Oh man, am I relieved that you occasionally like a little downtime. I mean, because when you get downtime, I get downtime.
And of course, it happens at a time when I really do desire the downtime now, and I don't have time for the downtime because of this crazy, insane lifestyle I've devised for myself going back 20, 30 years ago. So I'm screwed, man. I'm in the vortex now. It's nothing to do but sink or swim, and I'm paddling up, trying to keep my head above water as much as possible. So I made it through 2 episodes before 2 a.m., complete with notes and everything. Started the 3rd episode and said, okay, pal, come on. Who are you kidding? So I turned it off and I crammed it right before we did the after show yesterday. Crammed it as far as taking my notes and everything. I mean, but it leaves me no time to do anything. It's really down to the wire here. And I kind of love it that way because there's obviously no time for me to sit around and hear anyone else's opinion of it outside of the official RFR Facebook group and our Patreon community. Those are the only ones I'll make a priority to check in to see what those guys are saying. Mm-hmm. But I don't let anything really get into my head or anything. And even Jason, you've been reluctant to get involved in our Jedi Council texts about the show and stuff, and I'm really happy for that.
Well, a lot of it is just because FJ and Kyle aren't always watching right when we are, Kyle's got the kids and everything. And so I don't want to go on there when I know FJ or Kyle hasn't seen it and sound off. And also the show is such that I need a little bit of time to think about it, to be honest with you. And, I don't think Andor is the type of show where you can really have a hot take. Like Andor, we were talking about it is so dense and so thick. Just the way that we structure the after shows, and we've done a lot of these going back to the original Clone Wars series. With a 22-minute animated show, I never felt the need to have to walk through the action sort of beat by beat in order as it happens, because you grab themes. You say, okay, what happened with Maul? What happened with Asajj? What happened with Anakin? But there's so much happening in this show that the best way to do it, I think, is to walk through the series almost like an audio commentary, because there's just so much. Because if you just grab sort of the top layers of things, character here, character there, in a situation here, you're going to miss so much. And listening back to it, not to sit here and like pat ourselves on the back, but listening back to it, I realize I think that's the right call. I think that's the way to do it. So yeah, it takes a couple or 3 hours to walk through a couple or 3 hours of story.
Only just to get the YouTube comments that say things like, these guys are watching the show with their eyes closed. How do they not see this? How do they not see that? Why do they think this? They misinterpreted that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, hey, we're trying, folks, but we're not perfect. So we're just Star Wars
And
fans.
by the way, I just want to remind people, we don't have like a team of writers and researchers that are combing through Wikipedia and all kinds of various resource guides and stuff. You know, a lot of these big YouTube channels, they've got a team of people that it's not just the talking head that you see on the screen that's delivering all of those little Easter eggs and things. It's literally a team of writers and researchers that are pulling all of that stuff. And that's great. I mean, good for them. But that's not RFR. That's not what we do. It's just Mac and me. And if you haven't figured it out, you know, I'm trying to provide the spine of the story, and Mac is the color commentary guy and comes in with the commentary. And I occasionally come in with my commentary, but it works. That's all I can say is it works.
I think so. And of course, we're doing this all in real time with you guys as Star Wars fans who are subscribers to Disney Plus, waiting for that Tuesday evening drop. We're watching it with you. We don't have preview screeners. We haven't been graced with Disney dumping the entire season on us like they have done with so many outlets.
Yeah.
And nor are we whining to be part of that group. I'm glad we're not part of that group.
You know, Jim, once upon a time, we did get links. Pull back the curtain a little bit. We got links. We had links.
But it was only like a day in advance of the episode dropping. It wasn't these, dropping the whole season.
No. It was very
I'm shocked
different.
they did that with Andor.
But
I'm shocked.
I'm bringing it up because I think we followed the links for a while it was fresh and new. And then we were like, we'll just watch it with everybody else. Like I kind of gave up on it. There wasn't any great advantage, like you were saying. But I like watching it knowing other people are watching it too. Like I love on our own Jedi Council where it's like, you'll get like the update. Kyle's like, I'm one episode in. FJ's like, I'm starting the third. It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah. You were starting your third and I was like midway through my rewatch, my like first episode of the rewatch. And I'm like, am I going to respond? No, I'm not going to respond.
Dude, there was a Cavs game on. No, I'm sorry. It was American Idol. And so my wife and daughter were and I'm just sitting there. And like normally they're in bed by like 9:30, 9:45, and I'm just like, wow, everybody's staying up awfully late tonight, aren't you? And I could have gone into another room, but I wanted the big room with the bigger TV and all of that. So it was worth staying up a little bit. But and then my wife goes, "Oh, it's your Star Wars night. I'm sorry, I forgot that your show was on."
I love that.
Yeah, she knows.
Boy, I got a little bit of that treatment. It was last week, I believe. It was last week. Yeah. And then I emerged from the, subterranean level and. How was it? Oh, it was pretty good. Yeah, you gotta watch it. We'll get caught up on it sooner or later, but they're reluctant to commit to these massive 2.5 hour blocks of entertainment that get dropped on us each and every week. That takes a certain level of commitment to sign up to that every Tuesday night. And we're here with you guys, though. I just want to make that point clear. We're here with you, and we're coming at you from fresh viewings on the after show. None of this, these aren't things that we've had time to think about. So I think it levels the playing field with us and the Star Wars fan, the public Star Wars fandom that we're so proud to be part of. Who needs this elitist BS?
Right.
Having access and stuff. Does that make their reviews better? Does it?
I don't think so. I don't think so. But
it just gives them an advantage as far as being able to not stay up till 2 a.m. on Tuesday nights. But I'll take it. I like it. The pain is sweet.
Yeah.
The pain is sweet and puts us in the moment, gives us moments we'll never forget as fans, quite honestly, as long as we're in there hanging and banging in the Death Star Trench with all of our fellow RFR listeners, everyone in the audience. We're all there with you guys and loving it.
And loving it. And loving it. All right. Well, joining us here in just a little bit, we'll have Cassandra and Tracy from the Forest Moon Festival. But before we do, we want to check in with you and some listener mail.
You must contact me.
Play back the entire message.
What message?
Message after the message.
The Emperor commands you to make contact with him. It's a trick. Send no reply.
Chud, Jason, and Jimmy. This is Patreon member Old Ben Ken, and I was just listening to your most recent RFR Q&A, Drawn to Thrawn, and I was just thinking about you guys were talking, and you have talked about on the recent shows that Star Wars is too inconsistent in the content that it's putting out, and you talked about the jump from Acolyte to Skeleton Crew to Andor, and how the tone shift is so dramatically different from each show that it's so hard for new people, in my opinion. The reason new kids aren't getting into Star Wars is because it's so inconsistent, right? And with so much content, like you guys always say, what Star Wars needs is for it to go back to theaters. You go on Disney Plus and there's 10 plus shows. People go there and they think, wow, that's a lot. I don't know even where to start. And I think that's hurt the entry level for new fans if they don't have someone to guide through. Like I have a friend who I really got into Star Wars, but I had to tell him, okay, start with this and this. A lot of people just hate on a show because of one fact, like Kenobi with the girl chasing through the forest, and it's lame. But I think a lot of younger people also just latch on to one thing, and that makes them really dislike the series. I'm a younger fan, but I don't have that feeling. I still like all the series, even if there's things in them that are less good. So I think just enjoy Star Wars, and thanks for being such a positive place on Patreon.
There you go.
If you guys aren't on Patreon, you're missing so much. But
So
RFR number one.
Love him.
Thanks,
Love
man.
that
Appreciate that. That's great. I mean, this idea of an entry point, and I was trying to think, Jim, about what other franchises there might be out there where people might be looking for some handles to grab onto, and it just so much of what we consider to be these huge sweeping sagas, whether it be Star Wars, Star Trek, they all kind of started sort of around the same time. You throw in a Doctor Who and things like that. So the best thing that I can say is it's almost like it's not almost like, it really is a hobby. So let's say that you decide that you want to get into, you like wine. You're interested in wine. Mm-hmm. You're going to ask somebody, where do I start? And it's like, well, what do you like? Do you like sweet? Do you like a drier wine? It could be cigars. What do you like? Do you like something that's really full bodied and a lot of flavor? Do you like something lighter? I kind of think that's sort of the tact that we could take with people that are wanting to maybe get into Star Wars, or maybe they were fans back in the day and they want to get back into it. There's so much of it. It's like, well, let's start with what you like. What do you like?
Well, that's what frustrates me the most, is that level of what some call variety. Mm-hmm. I call inconsistency. Mm-hmm. And I also call it, famously now, an identity crisis, a Star Wars identity crisis. The franchise doesn't know what it wants to be. And I think that I only like wring my hands over that because I think that this approach is very confining and it isolates. It slices up the fan base into pieces of a pie as opposed to trying to discover the thing that brought all the fans into the fan base in the first place. They're trying to put us all in certain categories as fans, which I despise. I think we should all be here because we're Star Wars fans, universally, and not like, well, I only like this kind of Star Wars or that kind of Star Wars. I think that's damaging to the fan base, and I think it's damaging to the general audience. People are not certain about the type of Star Wars they're going to be getting when they flip on Disney Plus or, as will eventually happen, buy a ticket in the movie theater. Remember that idea, that novel concept of seeing Star Wars in a movie theater? Well, I was really reminded of it this past weekend with the Revenge of the Sith hitting the theaters. But we'll get to that in headline news in just a few minutes. That reminded me of a time when the Star Wars fan base was rather united and stood as one. By splitting it all up into making Star Wars for different types of people and everything, I think you're taking your eye off the prize. You want to please the fan base on the whole as opposed to try to lure these other people into the franchise by baiting them with these bastardized versions of Star Wars that apply to only certain genres or certain tastes. It should be Star Wars. And it is singular Star Wars that brought this fan base to the door of Lucasfilm to begin with.
Yeah.
And it was cultivated by George Lucas.
Yeah. Our caller was asking about, well, how do you get people in the door? Like, how do you give them where do you send them? Because it seems overwhelming. Like he's saying, you go on to the Star Wars page on the Disney Plus, and if you're relatively new, there's a lot of options. Where do you start?
Where do you start them off? Well, of course, being there from day one at ground zero in 1977, I will always insist anyone new to the franchise, they watch the original film. Because to me, it's a true masterpiece. It doesn't matter what audiences of today want. The original Star Wars is the masterpiece. You put it in the category with Citizen Kane, Wizard of Oz, Gone with the Wind. Those are the classic films that built Hollywood. And Star Wars essentially in 1977 rebuilt Hollywood. And I think a lot of people, that gets lost on a lot of the modern audiences of today. I really think it does. And I don't think George Lucas did us any favors with those special editions either in protecting the legacy of what went down in 1977. But it is what it is. That's one of those things I'll say, hey, it is what it is. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? I experienced it, so there's no empty holes in my fandom. And it's also hard to give people the perspective of 1977 so they understand the impact of what that original film in its original form did to audiences that summer of 77. It was something else. And I think the way that Star Wars has grown throughout the years, special edition or not, has proven that it's a timeless feature. So I will always point people.
So they go to the first film. Okay.
Even if it's special edition, doesn't matter to me. It just,
we don't have much of a choice unless you have some old physical copies or you have new physical copies of things that you shouldn't have. I got a few of those over on the shelf there, but all right. So it's the original. So it's the original film, and if that is your thought, that if that doesn't inspire them, if they don't walk away from that film saying, I need more of this, then they should probably move on and find something else.
Well, that's the true test of their mettle. That's the midichlorian test. Is seeing how they react to A New Hope, 1977.
Yeah.
If I want to lure people into Star Wars, There are plenty of avenues to do that right now because Star Wars has been so scattershot in its approach, from the Acolyte to Skeleton Crew to even Lego Star Wars. You know, it's very scattershot. And I can find many different ways to lure people in. But I don't want that. I want fandom of substance. And the baseline for all of that is 1977's Star Wars. I'm not even going to give it the dignity of. I'm not even going to give it the dignity of A New Hope. It's just Star Wars. And Greedo shot first, biatches. So that's how I approach introducing fandom.
I say, I'm not advocating for cutting up the fan base or anything like that. I'm a realist. It's already been done. So if you're looking to introduce the franchise to somebody, you can start out. You can kind of start and try to meet them where they are. Whether they're maybe they're more into like the sci-fi aspect, maybe they're more into the mythological aspect. I would probably offer up a suggestion to someone who's a big Tolkien fan. It might be different than somebody who's a Trekkie that says, you know what, I'm tired of being at war with you Star Wars fans. Let me see what this is all about. I'd probably go more your direction with something like A New Hope. But
here's the thing that you have to understand about Star Wars is the original generation was introduced to Star Wars, obviously, by the 1977 film. And that 1977 Star Wars captured lightning in a bottle and established the groundwork for almost 50 years of entertainment to follow in its wake. To make the same demands of current Star Wars or even current Star Wars audiences in the year 2025, I think is a fool's errand. I think you're right, Jason. I think you do have to find something that brings people into the franchise to the point where you're not forcing them to sit down like this is a Clockwork Orange and you're prying their eyelids open and you're saying, watch this 1977 film. No, it's
how many
it's
guys have done that to their
like
girlfriends over the years?
Well, I have family members with complaints, but it's like that was the moment. That was when it all happened. And like I said, it's lightning in a bottle. It really is. And it established the foundation for everything that we're doing today. But audiences nowadays definitely do need something that they can connect with. And it will never be the same universal, groundbreaking experience that occurred in 1977. It never, ever will be. However, Star Wars has come close to second and third acts in that department. George Lucas really rebuilt the entire industry when he brought the prequel trilogies into fold, because he basically created digital cinema. By doing so, it's amazing that he was able to have that kind of impact on the industry, not once but twice, and just shows you what kind of real deal the guy is. I mean, he is the real deal. Like the godfather of modern cinema is George freaking Lucas. And some of you dare to say he raped your childhood? Remember when that was in fashion back in like the late 2000s, from in the wake of the prequel trilogy. You guys had the nerve to say that kind of stuff.
They even remember that movie, The Trial of George Lucas? Do you remember that thing?
Yes, I do. And we were actually offended by that whole approach.
Yeah.
When it all started to rear its ugly head. It's like, oh, great, wonderful.
The people, that's what it was. The people versus George Lucas.
The people, yeah. And we're like, oh, great, wonderful. The prequel haters have organized. Jeez. I mean, come on. We got Kyle Newman standing on the front lines for prequel supporters. He's trying his damnedest. He's waving his sword at the front of the front lines, driving us into battle and stuff. But those
did a whole panel about prequel appreciation at Star Wars Celebration 5, I think it was, maybe Celebration
something like
6?
that. Yeah, remember we
Yeah.
sat there to watch that. There was only minor heckling going on.
Yeah,
but,
can you imagine? I mean, the kids that go to the conventions today and see standing ovations for guys like Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen and Ahmed Best, it's probably hard for you to wrap your mind around that there would be a panel that was essentially in defense of the Star Wars prequels. It's a very, very different time. But
when Kyle did it, it was really a message that supporters, we needed to get that across. We really did. We felt like people were sort of getting lost in the jungle as far as their approach to the prequel trilogy, and now it's all come full circle. The prequel trilogy is being absolutely celebrated, and the box office this past weekend for Revenge of the Sith obviously proves that there's a lot of, what do people like that I say all the time? Meat on the bone? Well, there is when it comes to the prequels.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I can remember, after having seen each prequel, and at the time the Lord of the Rings films were coming out, everybody was just, I'll be honest, it kind of took some of the thunder away from Star Wars a little bit. They were releasing the films annually every Christmas. And I remember leaving that first Lord of the Rings film, and that it was like an Enya song came on at the end. It was very sad, And I remember thinking to myself, like, oh man, why can't Star Wars have this kind of mature, emotional swelling and all of that? And I'm going to tell you this. Every time I watch one of the prequels now, I go, oh, thank God that they didn't do that. Because I think the prequels stand right alongside the original trilogy in terms of their integrity, their refusal to kowtow to current modern isms and all of that. They really are, all 6 of those films, in my opinion, are absolutely timeless.
Not to mention the prequel trilogy definitely mirrored the original trilogy as far as the emergence of new filmmaking technology goes. George Lucas rewrote the book twice. And there were other books he was writing at the same time, like the whole blueprint for franchise entertainment, for merchandising films. I mean, that's just scratching the surface, I mentioned, 2 or 3 or 4 different examples of the impact the man has had on cinema, and it's an impact that will be there forever. It's I just can't believe he had a second act.
Yeah.
And I called it when it was happening, and people would stand up to me in crowded taverns saying, "You are a Jar Jar Binks apologist." You know who you are. And that person's probably listening to the show right now, and I expect a text tomorrow.
Because
he's still a Star Wars fan.
What was our voicemail question? I think you got your money's worth on that voicemail.
It was a good one. It was a good one.
It was a good
I always
one.
felt that Lego Star Wars was an awesome gateway for younger fans, though, even more so than a film or anything. I found that Lego Star Wars was something that brought a lot of young fans into the fold. And it shouldn't ever be. And I'm not talking about the animated specials. I'm talking about the toys themselves.
Yeah, I agree.
And the video games.
The video games.
And the video games, definitely.
Video games certainly helped in my house. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, mine too.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Well, my house, they didn't have a choice. I mean, these kids were, they had the mark on them the day they were born.
Rebel Force Radio.
Tell you what, we're going to bring in our friends here in just a moment from the Forest Moon Festival. It's all happening May 30th through June 1st in Northern California, spanning 2 different counties, the Humboldt and the Del Norte counties. And these are the actual filming locations for Return of the Jedi, all the action that happened there on Endor with the Ewoks and the Rebels and the Imperials. So these folks can say it better than we can, so let's welcome in to Rebel Force Radio, Cassandra Hesseltine and Tracy Boyd of the Forest Moon Festival. Let's get into it, and let's talk about the incredible event that's coming up, Forest Moon Festival. And I've got to tell you, Jimmy Mack and I have been around the Star Wars block for the last 17 years. And this has got to be one of the most unique and interesting events. You know, there are conventions, and then there's this Forest Moon Festival that is unlike anything else. To call it a convention, I don't think does it justice based on the photos and the things
it's
that
an
I've
event.
seen. So it is absolutely an event. So how did this all start?
I was folding laundry one day, and this is a true story. And I was bored. And, you know, we had done this amazing rendition of the local map of the movies where film sites had, you know, taken place in the area. And we realized, oh, we represent 2 counties. And Star Wars Return of the Jedi was the one movie that filmed in both counties. And so we were like, we hear there's these stormtroopers that'll show up for nonprofits, and we could show the movie, and wouldn't that be cool? You know, we should do something like that. And that was, I don't know, 12 years ago. And then pre-pandemic, we actually started taking it serious and thinking maybe we could do some type of festival in 2019. And then, of course, the pandemic happened. And then we were coming out of the pandemic, and my good friend here, Tracy Boyd, the Hollywood filmmaker that he is, you know, came back to town. And we shared with him and Tiffany, you know, the team, we call them TNT. And they said, hey, this sounds amazing. Let's take this on. And so there's about 4.5 of us that work together to put this on. And it's been amazing, you know, between everybody's creativity and gifts and unique things that they bring to the table. This is like our brainchild.
Sure sounds like a great idea and a great way to celebrate your community and Star Wars at the same time. So, Tracy, can you tell us a little bit about some of these events you guys have planned, and how does Rebel Force Radio fit into the mix?
Well, Katie barred the door. Rebel Force Radio is going to be on the Redwood Coast. We are all very excited about this.
Yes,
we can't wait to have you guys out here and show you so much of the beauty and community that's here. But we sort of have been tossing around this idea of a traveling road show, because one of the unique things about this festival is it's spread out across 2 counties. Cassandra's also the film commissioner for both Humboldt and Del Norte County. And this is presented by the Film Commission. So we thought it would be really cool to take you to some of our, we call them base events, our main events, usually surrounded by an outdoor screening of Return of the Jedi, although there's one exception. And we thought do a live broadcast or a live broadcast recording from each of these places and get a little different flavor and sort of meet some members of the community. And we have some folks that have some stories to tell from when the filming took place up here. So we thought it would be a really great way to not only show off the festival and share it with your audience, but what a thrill to have you all here for our locals.
It's not just Rebel Force Radio. You guys have netted another top talent in the Star Wars community. Tell us who it is.
Well, we are thrilled, and we have to give a lot of thanks to Kyle Newman, who not only will be here, but also helped connect us with you. So he is the river to his people, and he is just such a sweetheart. Such a sweetheart, and we're just so excited. It kind of all started last year. Cassandra, you should share the story how it sort of started with Kyle.
Yeah, well, okay.
Last year after the festival.
We run ourselves ragged doing this. Like like I said, it's a small team with a whole bunch of other amazing volunteers and locals that help out. But we're running around, like chickens with our heads cut off, and that'll boost confidence, won't it? But no, we give it our all is what I'm trying to say. And so we're all exhausted the next day or two after the festival. And so I was laying in bed watching a movie, trying to recover. And I turn on the TV, and what should come on but Fanboys. And I'm like, wait a minute. Why aren't we showing this movie? This is amazing. I thought this is perfect that we should show it, along with everything else we're doing. But then, of course, Tracy took it one step further, the amazing man that he is. And he's like, well, why don't we bring Kyle, the director, out for this? And then it just spiraled from there. It's gotten really exciting.
Yeah,
well-
and Kyle is a great guy to have on board because beyond being a very talented filmmaker and a Hollywood insider, he's an amazing ambassador for Star Wars and has been for many years. And of course, the film Fanboys itself is a love letter to Star Wars and Star Wars fans.
Truly.
Naturally, our paths crossed very early on. We've known Kyle for going on 20 years now, and he kept us up to speed with all of the developments going on as he was shooting and editing Fanboys, and a fast friendship was built up from there. And gosh, I would have never believed we'd be hanging out in the Ewok forest in the future. And here we are with plans to head up to the Redwood Forest.
We just thought how fun to have you guys and Kyle, and if we're able to bring anybody else up and just sort of do a little traveling road show and go around beautiful Redwood Coast and take in the sights along the way, but also have these fun festival events.
So for the people that are less familiar, so is this idea of traveling the show around, is that new for this year? Or where if people say, I want to go to the Forest Moon Festival, what does that mean? Where are they going?
I think it started wanting to have something for all these distant places around the two counties so that everyone could enjoy and take part in it. But we have had a lot of people that treated the festival as a road trip and tried to hit different events all throughout as they traveled across the county. So it's kind of choose your own adventure. But we have certain sort of cornerstone events in different parts of each county, and that's what we'll mostly be traveling to together.
Well, and to answer that question, your previous question though, is part of it is trying to create the whole like event to be something like 4th of July, so we're celebrating for the weekend that we have the film sites for Endor and Return of the Jedi, and have it be like celebrated everywhere. All the restaurants have a little man green drink, the hotels decorate, all the different businesses, and there's activities everywhere, just like you would for 4th of July. So that's our ultimate goal. Of what we want. But we have things like including like the baseball team that is here, and they are having Star Wars days that, people can come and watch the baseball game and be dressed up that weekend. We have, before in the past, like last year, we had a woman who makes a whole bunch of perfumes here in Old Town in these cute little storefronts, and she did a Princess Leia perfume for the weekend. So it's a mixture of activities and businesses that are participating in some form.
Wow, that's great. And I love baseball and I love music. And Tracy, you were telling me something about a Star Wars Grateful Dead mashup that I can look forward to. What's this all about?
Oh, man. And I just got confirmation that they are indeed playing again this year at the Arcata Farmers Market. The past 3 years, including this year, they're called Tennessee Jedi. And basically it's a merger of Grateful Dead song covers with all new lyrics revolving around Star Wars. And they're all dressed up in costume and they're great.
Oh,
so we'll have that to look forward to. That's at the Arcata Farmers Market Saturday morning. It will kick off the whole thing in Crescent City up at Beachfront Park, right on the ocean. That will be an appearance for you all, and then we'll have costumers there from all the Lucas approved costuming clubs. And then once it gets dark, we'll have an outdoor screening of Return of the Jedi for the Del Norte folks.
That's amazing. Watching Return of the Jedi in the actual Endor forest. I mean, the little hairs on my arm just all stood up when I said that. And I'm so happy and grateful and thankful that you guys have reached out to Rebel Force Radio to join you on this wild, crazy adventure of an event that's coming up at the end of the month. What are the dates for the actual
31st?
festival?
May 30th, May 31st, and June 1st. So yeah, it's that last weekend of May. And we do that on purpose. People always ask us, why isn't it May 4th? Why isn't it, during that time frame? But there's so many other parties happening that we don't want to take away from that. And we want to be able to have ours be this stellar, unique event, for costumers and people like you to be able to attend. So we're really excited. We're still in the month of May when the movie filmed, pretty exciting. or premiered, I should say.
One thing that's so cool, Del Norte County boasts, that was where the Ewok Village was filmed. Unfortunately, none of that remains. But Humboldt County boasts that that's where the speeder chase scene was filmed. So both counties have a part in the Forest Moon story. And on Saturday, there'll be an outdoor screening of Return of the Jedi in the Redwoods in Eureka. And that's also in partnership with the zoo that has the most amazing skywalk through the redwood canopy. And when you're up there, it is really like you're in the Ewok village. You're up amongst the trees, 100 feet off the ground. Really incredible.
Wow.
I really can't wait. And I think it's so great that you guys
it's just like
that. Jason showing a picture of the Ewok village from Return of the Jedi. I think it's just so great. You guys are able to pay tribute to your community, and you're able to pay tribute to Star Wars at the same time. I'm from Chicago, so I pay tribute to a movie every day, The Blues Brothers. I drive like a maniac through the streets of Chicago to pay tribute to the Blues Brothers, with sunglasses on, too, even at nighttime. So that's my tribute. You guys do it a little bit better than me, and it's something that everyone can enjoy, and me and Jason and Kyle, all three of us are really looking forward to getting out there, hanging with you guys at the Forest Moon Festival. Of course, the website is there. What's the URL?
ForestMoon.org. Yeah.
Tracy, you know it.
ForestMoonFestival.org.
And I'd love to see Rebel Force Radio listeners join us out there in the Redwood Forest as we celebrate Return of the Jedi and Humboldt
Del
County.
Norte.
And what's the other county? You said 2 counties?
Yes. So Humboldt and Del Norte.
Del Norte. Del
That's
Norte.
how they pronounce it. Del Norte. They pronounce it Del Norte.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll be there. We'll be rocking two counties at once. Hey, before I let you go, Tracy, there's just one thing I want to ask you. You mentioned that the shooting location where the Ewok village was is no longer accessible, or does it no longer exist? Can you tell us why?
Well, it was set aside land to be logged before they filmed there. In fact, that's why they got permission to film there in the first place, and they kind of just let them do whatever they want, because in a preserve forest you wouldn't be able to build or do any damage to the ground or the trees or the canopy or anything like that. So it was land that was destined to be logged. I think at the time, had people realized what it would all become, maybe they might have done something different. But yeah, so it's basically clear cut now and on private land. So that's not something you can really access. But there's amazing redwood forests both in Del Norte and Humboldt County. And Cheatham Grove, it hasn't changed a bit. Like the log that you see in the movie is still there exactly the same way. It's like totally preserved.
There's a toppled down tree, this giant redwood, and it sort of forms a natural underpass. And it was used during the speeder chase. The speeder bikes flew underneath this natural formation in the forest. And
exactly right.
So that's what I'm talking about, right? I mean, that's right, you guys. That's what I'm talking about.
That's it.
Oh, sure. There it is. There it is. That's an amazing backdrop. Tell us a little bit about the room you're in with this incredible Endor forest backdrop.
Yeah, so I am in our Redwood Coast Museum of Cinema. And so this is where we have the exhibit, which is almost done. We'll be finishing over the next couple days and open this Saturday. And it's our nod to the Forest Moon exhibit for the Return of the Jedi. So this picture was taken year 1, which was really exciting, with some of our costumers out at the speeder chase scene. And this is the spot right there where the log is propped like that. It's still there, as Tracy was saying. So yeah, you can walk underneath it. They do walks. So they'll be doing on that Saturday, I believe, they'll be doing some scheduled walks that they'll take you on a tour and walk you through there. I know that we might have on our agenda to take you there. So that's really exciting. And yeah, people can go and check out where the filming was. And what I was going to say earlier too is that that they did film on the private property, exactly like Tracy said, and it also had to do with pyrotechnics. They didn't want any explosions in the state park, plus all the other things that he mentioned. And then But they also did film in a state park up there that is called Jedediah State Park, or sometimes it's just called Jed Smith. And that one also, they won't tell us where the filming was there because they don't really want everyone to know. So there might be some trees, some area where they did film there, but none of us know where exactly. We just know that the park still exists and you could go up in there. And when you're there, you feel like you are definitely in Endor.
Well, you never know. You drop me and Swank off up in that area with Kyle. We might discover some long-lost shooting locations.
That's where this
and provide the evidence to back it up.
Make some history.
Wow. All right. And as far as the schedule of events, an itinerary, where can people go to see what's happening where? Maybe they can only make one of them, or maybe they're just interested in seeing the screening of the film. What's the best way to get their heads around when these things are happening and where?
So we have an app, which is called the Redwood Coast Experience app. You can download that off, Apple, Androids, for Androids. And you can, in the app, you can find the Forest Moon Festival in there with the schedule. It'll start populating as we're now accepting vendors and loading them in there. And then the other way is you can go to the website, and that tab you want to select is called Destinations. And that will take you to our different kinds of destinations that we have, the ones that are our sponsored events that we're doing in partnership with others, and then other people's events, as well as then other people's, pop-ups and things like that are exciting. So we just started populating. That's our movie, movies in the park that we're going to be showing. That's the starting to populate all of this, so people will be able to see where and when things are. They'll also be able to see what's participating in a passport discounts, as well as a scavenger hunt. And we have rad prizes for this kind of stuff. So that's where Tracy was talking about people kind of travel through each county and do a bunch of the different things, and you can win prizes doing that.
And are there admission costs to getting into these individual events, or is there one admission fee that gets you into all of the events? How does that work?
Well, that's a really special part of this festival. It's .org for a reason. It's a nonprofit, and all of those screening events are free.
Oh,
and
that's fantastic.
There are some private.
It's the best price.
There are some private businesses that are doing ticketed events as part of the festival, but I would say 98% of everything going on is free and open to everybody.
Wow.
It's a way to support our community, and there's so much community pride that it was filmed here. So it's a way to celebrate that. It's a way for people to take pride in their area, their community, and the environment. And also it's a very ecologically minded community. So the Ewoks are an awesome venue with the kids talking about living in harmony with your environment and living in harmony with the forest. So a lot of kid events, very family friendly and free.
I love this is amazing.
Family friendly.
We're really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
We're really, really looking forward to this. It sounds like a very original and, very special event that's, I hate to overuse the word unique, but it is unique to your area. No one else could pull off anything like this. You have to live in the Endor forest. So before we leave, I want to say something to you guys from the Galactic Phrase Book and Travel Guide written by Ben Burt. I'm going to open it up to Chapter 4, How to Deal with Ewoks. That's the chapter. And I'm going to say something very, very wonderful to you. Tiha, Michu. Hey, come on. I'm trying to talk, Wicket. You're always stepping all over me. Ticha, Michu Nub, He Wutak. Okay, that I'm saying to you, thank you. I would love to visit your village.
Wow. Well played, sir.
That's just a taste of the talent that he'll be bringing to you in just a few weeks, guys.
Bring that book.
Chiwomak, Bontnub Pamuk. Beware, I have great power. So be careful, Swank. Be careful, Swank, before... What was that?
What? Yeah, I don't know.
That's we'll be running into all sorts of furry friends like that little Ewok, and thank God for the book. I'll be able to communicate with them, and I'll introduce them to all you guys, and we'll all become members of the tribe together. So I'm looking forward to that. So that's That's the Forest Moon Fest.
Hey.
ForestMoonFestival.org.
.org. Go there and get the app and join us. We'll be there. Thanks so much, guys. Can't wait to see you out there at the end of the month.
Thank you. See you soon.
Hello, this is Warwick Davis, and you're listening to Rebel Force Radio, your source for the Force.
All right, take a brief pause in the action here and talk about our friends over at Bull Airs. Yeah, once again, Rebel Force Radio teaming up with Tom and the Bull Airs team. And we want to tell you all about these incredibly unique and extremely limited edition shoes, all going on sale May 4th, 2025 at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. You can check them all out at their website. Go to bullairs.com/May 4th. That's May, M-A-Y, 4th. And we have a giveaway right here on RFR. We got a couple of gift store credits coming to some loyal Rebel Force Radio listeners.
Yeah, I'm so excited about this. Like you said, Jason, we are once again teaming up with Bull Airs and Tom Bullman. You've heard Jason mention Tom a couple times. Might as well tell you who he is. He's a New York native who is a world-class celebrity tattoo artist. He's an actor. He's an avid Star Wars toy collector. He's one of us. And you can catch him on the show from Paramount, on the Paramount Network, Ink Master. Tom is over a decade of tattoo experience. He's a brilliant creative mind, a great artist, and he has customized these shoes. And these shoes will appeal to the super fan in you. There's no question about it. And he's here to celebrate May 4th on Rebel Force Radio with the announcement of this incredible drop of, I mean, these aren't just shoes. This is artwork. This is artwork for any fan to proudly display as part of their sneaker collection, or even wear them, make a fashion statement with Bull Airs. So Tom and the gang at Bull Airs, they were so amazing. They gave us the opportunity to give away a $250 store credit to an RFR Patreon supporter and a $200 store credit to a member of the Rebel Force Radio general listening audience worldwide. And we had so many entries, and we chose some winners at random before the show. And our winner from the general audience is Josh Schumacher. Josh Schumacher, look at your emails and expect something from Rebel Force Radio with your $200 credit. May 4th is going to be happening tomorrow as this show goes live. So check your email immediately to get access to your $200 off. And good luck. I hope you get an amazing one-of-a-kind pair of Bull Airs customized shoes. We also have a $250 credit to give away, Jason, and this is going to go to a Patreon, an RFR Patreon supporter. One thing I didn't mention is our RFR VIPs got double entries. Anybody who sent us an email or a direct message, show at Rebel Force Radio or a DM throughout our Patreon group. If it was a VIP, that VIP got a double entry, and it really paid off because I did choose an RFR VIP to win the $250 store credit to Bull Airs, and that is RFR VIP Jeff Holland. Congratulations, Jeff.
Right.
Yes.
Holland. Love it.
Congratulations, Jeff. And thank you, everyone. We got hundreds of emails. Thank you so much to everyone who entered to win. And congratulations to our winners, Josh Schumacher and Jeff Holland. Check your inbox, because there is a code for you to claim your $200 and $250 store credit from the great gang at Bull Airs. What's that URL again, Jason, so people can check out these amazing customized shoes?
Bullairs.com. That's BULLAIRS.com/May, M-A-Y, the number 4TH.
Yeah, there you go. Fourth.
I got a fever.
And the only prescription is more
Rebel Force Radio.
That's easy.
I have good news for you, my lord.
That's good news. Come closer, I have good news.
All right, as Mac was saying earlier, Revenge of the Sith got some revenge of its own as it hit theaters for a limited 3-day release, a long weekend. And wow, did it pay off for Disney as it came in with $25.2 million domestic, and that's a $42 million global haul. And it ranks very, very high, Jim. It's number 3 in the top ranking re-releases by opening weekend, just trailing your favorite, A New Hope, in the 1997 re-release that got $35.9 million in its opening weekend, and the 2011 re-release of The Lion King in 3D, which got $30.2 million. Now, here's the thing. Lion King and A New Hope, they had open-ended releases. Revenge of the Sith only got 3 days, and it became number 3. So a huge, huge accomplishment for a movie that's 20 years old. And I think it speaks very, very much to the rising star of the Star Wars prequels.
Revenge of the Sith. Wow. What a thrill it was to see it back on the silver screen this past weekend. I had heard early buzz that a successful release was at hand. But did I expect a $42 million worldwide gross on this re-release? It hammered the special edition of A New Hope back in 1997, which came out at about a $35 million worldwide release. And that was considered to be a huge success and a gamble by Lucasfilm. That was a gamble by Lucasfilm because George Lucas dumped so much money into cleaning it up, shooting new scenes, fixing up old scenes with CGI. It was really a testing ground for some prequel CGI. And it was considered a risk, and people were shocked back in 1997 that fans flocked en masse into the movie theaters that January to see Star Wars, and it really set the stage for a very positive return to cinemas for Star Wars in the prequel era. Well, here we are again at the end of a dry spell for Star Wars in the movie theaters. And Mandalorian versus Grogu. That's not the name of the movie, Chucklehead.
No, that'll be the
Mandalorian
sequel.
And Grogu.
No,
yeah,
that'll
be the
part
sequel.
2.
Versus Mandalorian and Grogu.
Like
then
Freddy
it's Mandalorian
versus Jason.
Grogu.
That's what they're going to go for.
Then it's Grogu takes Manhattan. And then Grogu worldwide. Let me gather my thoughts. We are right on the cusp of Star Wars finally returning to the theaters after a significant absence, just like we were in 1997. And to see such a positive impact on the box office by an older Star Wars film, a la 1997 in the special editions, is really, really encouraging. Plus, also keep in mind, when we went to see the special editions in 1997, we were so thrilled that Star Wars was back in the theaters. The original trilogy was back in the theaters. After 20 years, we were seeing A New Hope back on the screens. Well, here we are again in 2025, and a whole new generation is rejoicing the fact that a Star Wars film they saw when they were kids is now back in the theaters, and they can go see it as adults, or even in many cases take their own kids to see it and experience it through their eyes. And that's the true gift that Star Wars keeps giving back to parents time and time and time again. As we pass the lightsaber from one generation to another, the rewards have seemed to be quite significant regardless of what generation you're from. So I was so excited by the news that Star Wars had a very positive re-release. And I'm glad so many people were able to celebrate the moment. I went with my boys on Friday night. We went to the late show. the Babu Freaks had gathered earlier. They had a big crew, you know. They had like
I saw that
Christian
on
Mock.
Facebook.
Yeah. They were all there.
All the freaks were there. Even Billy Mack was there.
Even Billy was there. Billy didn't want to miss a freak out. But I went to the later show, and I caught the Babu Freaks in the lobby as I was walking into the later screening. But when I told my sons, especially Michael, who really came of age as a Star Wars fan when Episode 3 was released back in 2005, he said to me, "You have to go with me." And he had to work late on Friday. And his brother Dylan had to work late on Friday. So they demanded the 10:30 show with Pops. So I took him. And we had the most wonderful time. And, you know, it was such a small world. I ended up sitting next to Tommy Waffles from the Galloping Ghost Arcade, my very good friend. So, I mean, and that was not planned. His lady friend thought it was all planned out by the two of us. And I think Tommy felt a little awkward by the whole situation that was at hand there. But I mean, hey, you know, it happens. And I was very happy to sit next to Tommy Waffles. I was happy to see the Babu Freaks in the lobby, and Chris Mocked and his gang, and just the ride home was filled with great conversations about the film itself with me and my boys. And it was really impressive to see it on film screens again.
I heard so many people saying, wow, you know, because we're used to in this era empty theaters. You go see a first run movie and the theaters are practically empty, and people were really commenting, wow, my theater was like 3/4 of the way full, half full, all full, you know. So it's very different. Yeah. Some people were claiming, some people were saying that their theaters were packed. So you compress all that excitement and all that demand into 3 days, and it really paid off. Who knows what would have happened if they would have let it play for another week? I bet now they're looking back at it and saying, yeah, maybe we should have let that run a little bit.
Yeah, give it a couple of weekends at least.
Yes.
But
especially
the
during
shelf
this time,
life.
this is sort of the dog days. I remember when the special editions came out, they came out like January, February, March. So January was A New Hope, February was Empire, and then in March it was Jedi. And that is kind of a slower period, the late winter and early spring before all the big summer blockbusters come out. And that was back in 97. Now, there's really not much of the summer blockbuster is not really a thing much anymore.
No, it really isn't, unfortunately. But I did note for the first time in years, when I walked into the theater last Friday night at 10:15 p.m. or whatever it was, there was a genuine buzz in the entire complex that I have not experienced in quite a while. I think films are coming back. The Minecraft movie, obviously, something that had a lot to do with it. The Sinners movie was #1 this weekend with 45 million. So I'm seeing signs of life as far as the theater activity goes. And I want to see that continue. I was very encouraged by everything coming out of the multiplexes this weekend. And my own experience too was rich and fulfilling and satisfying. And all in all, it was a great time. The special effects hold up so well in this film. It's a beautiful looking film when you see it on the big screen. Something that really had a huge impact on me, though, more than ever before, were the downtime, the slow time between scenes, where George was clearly playing up this like Shakespearean edge with the dialogue between the Jedi Knights and Anakin and Padme and all of this stuff. It almost felt very Shakespearean to me for the first time in a legitimate way.
Right.
In like a legitimate way where I really felt there was substance behind this. It wasn't just George playing up a Shakespearean trope or something. There felt like there was substance. There was meaning behind it.
Well, you didn't need an explosion every 5 minutes with Star Wars. I mean, George, that's the thing. Now everything has to be, action sequence after next bigger action sequence and then an even bigger action sequence. And it's about wowing everybody. And George, even though, ironically, he was at the forefront in pushing the limits on the technology, it was always in the pursuit of telling the story, not in just about blowing people's socks off. That happened, but that wasn't necessarily the goal. The goal was to tell a great story.
And it is a great story. And I'm not saying that through the rose-colored glasses of fandom. I think there's a true execution and excellence of execution going on with Revenge of the Sith, and obviously fans are reacting to it, and the prequels, what a strong comeback they've made. I always felt like there was a lot of substance to the prequels and that fandom would eventually catch up with it, and we're seeing it happen. We're seeing it happen. There is true substance and true longevity. Hayden Christensen is back playing Anakin Skywalker in new stories. Ewan McGregor is back playing Obi-Wan Kenobi in new stories. What a time for a fan who's been with this thing for all of these years. Or what a great time for a fan who grew up with this stuff. It's just the magic of Star Wars and its ability to replicate previous successes with newer successes and keep pushing the bar forward as far as the industry goes of filmmaking, of cinema, of movie going. It's all just so impressive to me. And every once in a while, when you take a step back and you really see the big picture, you realize that we're living in quite a golden age here as far as all of this type of storytelling goes. And I'm so happy to be here locked into it. But we also have great storytelling going on via Disney Plus with Andor Season 2.
We sure do. And with that, of course, comes all the publicity. And a guy that does not hold back is Tony Gilroy. This guy, talk about pulling the curtain back. I don't think anything is off limits when Tony's talking about the process. And he also makes it sound so interesting, whether he be talking about the way he manages his writing room, the way he talks about sort of managing the COVID period, the writer's strike, all of that. Just absolutely fascinating that this series came about with multiple crises that rocked the industry. And he was on the Q&A podcast with Jeff Goldsmith. If you're into just films, the making of films, how things, how they come about, especially how they're written, the Q&A with Jeff Goldsmith podcast is really, really good. So check that out. And his interview with Tony Gilroy, I think this is going to be the first of 4. It sounds like they're going to do a similar interview like this after each, as Tony calls them, blocks. They're not arcs. They are not parts. Tony Gilroy calls them blocks. And so
and also,
it's good enough for him. It's good enough for us.
You know, it's kind of funny. I don't think Tony knew that these shows were going to be released as arcs, as blocks, as 3-part blocks. But I find it interesting to make the observation that in the first block of 3 episodes, there was talk about how the Chandrillian wedding covers the course of 3 days. It's a 3-day affair. And then in the second block of 3, it was made clear to us another 3-day event happening on Coruscant with the parties that the senators were throwing. Remember in that scene with Perrin trying to boil down the schedule with Mon and said, how do you shove so... He said, how do you shove so much insincerity into 3 days? And I was like, how do I shove so much viewing time into 3 episodes in one evening is what I'm thinking. But I just found that funny. In both of those 3-part arcs, there were references to other things that come at you in 3 parts.
I don't know if it was a caller last night or if we didn't really get to our callers, but I don't know. Somebody made the comment that these arcs cover 3 days, and I didn't think that was so. I thought, well, yeah, there's a year gap, but I didn't think that they were literally like in not real time, but
days.
sort of near real time, 3 days and a day per episode. But that seems to be the case. And so
that may have been something Gilroy revealed. That may have been something Gilroy revealed at Star Wars Celebration Japan.
Yeah. It was Turtle Wars, by the way. I just remembered it was Turtle Wars.
It was Turtle Wars. Well, yeah, because his sundial told him so. Turtle Dial, or Turtle Wars. He's looking at Stonehenge, figuring this stuff out. We can't even comprehend how Turtle Wars boiled this all down. Chris Hagen, I just did a Q&A with him on Patreon this past week, and he broke down the wild life of Star Wars. It was amazing. It was and I said this to him, it was like sitting through a very well-organized panel at Star Wars Celebration, like on the university stage, where they break down the wildlife of Star Wars. Of course, Turtle Wars is a world-renowned expert on all sort of wildlife species. He's a top guy at the Turtle Survival Alliance, and an all-around great guy and huge Star Wars fan who really has his what together when it comes to breaking down the wildlife of Star Wars. He even pointed out moments in the original trilogy where we're actually seeing real world animals right in front of us. And yet they still appear to be exotic and unique to a galaxy far, far away. But Turtle Wars is like, no, you can go to a zoo and see that. You can go in your backyard and see some of these things. So, things like legless lizards posing as snakes and all of this kind of stuff. I mean, he's got it all figured out, Turtle Wars. So that's a master class in Star Wars wildlife, and it's available on the RFR Q&A this week. The RFR Q&A, there's 243 episodes out there, and you know how much money it costs you, Jason, to hear that show every week at RFR on Patreon. It's a buck a month. $1 a month. Patreon is so pissed off at me. They've been telling me for a year and a half, dude, you can't charge just $1. But I'm like, you know what? I'm showcasing some of the greatest Star Wars fans in the universe, and I want as big an audience to appreciate them as possible. Turtle Wars really knocked it out of the park on the Q&A, and we invite everyone to check it out at patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio. But Tony Gilroy, he's not thinking about the wildlife of Star Wars. To him, the wildlife of Star Wars is Luthen. Yeah, right? Am I right? So we have some highlights from Tony. We were all really surprised at the end of the first arc when Andor, I think, was it the end or was it the second to the end? Whatever. But Andor
it was when Andor left, when he left in the TIE Advance. Yeah.
Yes. When he split that crew of goofball Maya Pei rebels.
Yeah.
Those guys were absolute unorganized goofballs. And the question gets presented to him in this interview about Yavin, which I don't know about you, Jason, but when I saw he was blasting out of Yavin, it was a fist pump moment for me as a fan.
It was a very cool thing and very unexpected from Tony Gilroy, to be honest.
Yes.
This guy is not a slave to any kind of Easter eggs or, trying to impress Star Wars fans with his depth of Star Wars lore. That's not his game. So,
yeah, but is Yavin really an Easter egg when it comes to developing the story of Cassian Andor? The first time we ever get introduced to Cassian in Rogue One is on the planet Yavin.
At this stage
take that back. No. He is on Yavin. But we get introduced to him on the Ring of Kafrene. I'm sorry.
In this episode, Yavin is a cameo. If planets can make a cameo, that's what it is. It's a cameo.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's an Easter egg. It's an Easter egg.
But it's still cool. And like I said, I think unexpected from Gilroy. So let's hear what he has to say about revealing Yavin.
we have to have a planet that he's going to. There has to be a place for all that to take place. And, to have the Maya Pay Brigade and have them be so stupid and so disorganized and so messy was an answer to this wonderful leadership speech he had just given to this woman about the rebellion and this wonderful, clean, you're joining this incredible church of, I'm like, man, no, the rebellion is a mess. So I wanted to get to that right away. Luke and I'm like, okay, I need a planet. He's got to go someplace. And where's he going to go? And should we invent a planet? It's like, you know what? I call Pablo and I go, what's the status of Yavin at this point? He goes, no one's been there. And I go, oh my God, there's an element of Zelig to Cassian Andor. Not that he's a shapeshifter, but that he's always where something is happening, which is a little bit part of this destiny issue that we're going to. It just was like, wow, what fun to pull away and realize, my God, here's another place he's at the beginning of. He's everywhere, he is absolutely everywhere that this rebellion is taking place.
He's the Forrest Gump of the rebellion. He just always
Zelig.
in the. I like to say Forrest Gump.
I know. The Woody Allen reference doesn't work for you because
I don't even know who the hell it is. Zelig, who the hell's that?
Yeah, it's a film from the 80s that Woody Allen did about this guy in the 20s. It's I don't even want to explain it. I like the Forrest Gump connection. That gets Tony Gilroy a little bit more up to speed. Just a little bit more, a decade further into the future. If you make the Forrest Gump reference, Zelig does go over a lot of people's heads. Yes.
Yes. I heard that in it. When I heard the interview originally, I was like, what the hell is he talking about? I thought it was like something in mythology. I don't know.
No, it's Woody Allen.
Woody Allen. Well,
it's a mockumentary. A mockumentary comedy.
The Gorman Massacre, which we have not seen. We heard about the Tarkin Massacre, but the Gorman Massacre is something that is yet to come. So these poor people, my God, they just survived Tarkin landing that ship on their citizens. 500 died, including the bellboy's dad. I mean, it was brutal.
I mean, imagine.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. What, being a bellboy?
Well, I was considering more the Tarkin massacre, but the bellboy, I mean, that is a rough existence for that young lad.
That's not easy work. That's not easy
I
work.
mean, well, he's living in the shadows of the place where he saw his father die. I would have moved. I would have been.
I think I'd
be like, they got to have bellboys on Corellia or something. I got to get out of this place.
Right?
Why stay there? But, some people like to wallow in the past, in the darkness that it may provide. I think that bellboy was kind of dealing with that a little bit. Or maybe even looking for his day where he can rise up against the empire that took his father's life.
Maybe.
I think that might be more indicative of what was going on right there. But no one's allowed to speak freely in this empire. So,
or he's going to get killed in the next Gorman Massacre. Wouldn't that be ironic?
It seems like there are several Gorman massacres. Thank you, expanded universe of the 90s and 2000s.
Do you really want to be from that planet that's known for having multiple massacres? I think I think after 2, I would probably be like, you know what? I think
there's got to be greener pastures somewhere, right?
Naboo is sounding pretty good right now. All right, so Gilroy talks Tony Gilroy.
Yeah. Well, we know the Gorman Massacre is something that's going to be something of a centerpiece for Andor season 2, and Gilroy talks about it along with some of the challenges previous incarnations in storytelling of the Gorman Massacre might have provided him as a storyteller.
Canonically, Gorman is a mess. In Star Wars Legends, there's the Tarkin landing on a bunch of people and killing them in a massacre. Many people think that's the massacre. Then there's the Gorman Massacre that precipitates Mon Mothma leaving the Senate. That second one is the one on my calendar that said, okay, this is the one we're going to do. We had to do a lot of housekeeping to clean up the other part. You can see what I did later on. I won't give it away in spoilers. Part of it is, as I said, Luke is in all these meetings. Gorman. We're going to make an entire culture out of Gorman. We're going to do the massacre. We're going to build a society there, an economy there, a culture, a language, a national anthem, everything.
Yeah.
Well, we got to justify the expense. So I got to get a bunch of episodes out of it. So it's got to cover 2 blocks. So we're really going to spend time there. That first scene is modeled after the Wannsee conference that the Nazis had in the early 40s to design the final solution. They had a PowerPoint luncheon to decide how to kill 6 million people. That was my model for that meeting.
Ooh, heavy stuff.
Jeez.
So when you have to create a whole civilization, a whole society, particularly when you're dealing with the architecture, the clothing, the language, that what Tony's telling us is that's not cheap. And he knew it was going to be expensive. He knew it had to be a big centerpiece. And so I think we can all assume that we're going to be spending a lot more time on Gorman in season 2 of Andor because it's got to pay off. It's literally got to pay off the investment. And I know, getting people involved, linguists and stuff like that. That's not just, this is a little bit more advanced than George just writing down cute words that his kids said, right? And then making that into a language. This is
well, remember Ben Burt really developed a huge dictionary of language, and you can read all about it in the Star Wars Galactic Phrase Book and Galactic Tour Guide. And you heard me bring this up before
this week.
Ben Burt, who needs linguists? Right. Who needs linguists when you got Ben Burt? Sound designer for the win.
When I was listening to the Chandrillan people talk with that very French-inspired accent, it was obvious to me that they got somebody involved that does this sort of thing. It was, of course. Again, doesn't come cheap. They have to build all that stuff. They have to all of that world building that they did with inside Cyril's apartment, the artifacts, the decorations, the tchotchkes, all of that. Very, very immersive. So I think Gorman is going to probably come out of the Disney era of streaming as one of the more developed cultures that we will get in Star Wars. Probably up there with Mandalore and things like that, because of, again, the level of detail and how much time we're going to be spending there.
That is true, but also it's the most unoriginal and non-creative Star Wars society we've ever encountered. They are very much planet Earth, and it's almost so Earth. It's the most, in my opinion, the most real-world contemporary earthly look.
You know what's funny though? I don't think that's what they were aiming for. Which is,
I know.
I think they were really aiming for something super exotic. But
there's no exotic with Gorman. Everything is very recognizable. There are items that are taken right off of the Walmart shelf appearing in this.
But I don't
Gorman.
think they took anything off the Walmart shelf. I think it was all really expensive and bespoke made for this. But you're right. They could have saved some money by going to Walmart and maybe buying the same beret.
From lamps, berets, lamps, the briefcases, that metal briefcase that people started carrying around circa 1987 makes an appearance in Andor. It's like, really? Are we going to not even try anymore? And Andor has been guilty of doing that. Remember the camera from season 1, that Instamax camera, whatever you call those things, the Polaroid.
Oh, right.
Remember?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's like, look, I'm holding a Polaroid camera, but this is something that helps me calculate light speed jumps. It's like, the hell it is. That's a flippin' Polaroid camera from 1979. My dad had one when we visited Washington, D.C. and stood in front of the Washington Monument.
Look at Kelnaka's metal detector from The Acolyte. I mean, you talk about real world,
right off the shelf of Walmart, my friend. Right off the shelf.
But again,
I'm surprised they don't have like product placement credits in the end credits.
Considering the budgets for these shows, Tony's definitely saying that the Gorman, building the Gorman society, civilization, putting it on screen, that costs some money. So we're going to be spending a lot of time.
I believe it costs money.
On
Those
Gorman.
sets are impressive.
Yeah.
Those sets are impressive. And he does say, well, I can't just do one arc or one block in Gorman. I have to do two to justify the crap we built for this thing.
Right.
It seems very much like Ferrix, the environment they built for Ferrix, very immersive for the actors, for the shooting crew. You walk into a room and it's a kitchen and you see there's a pot on the stove and there's actually something in the pot on the stove.
Yeah, there's a lot of
very
detail.
Immersive. I mean, that's the way they've done things.
A lot of detail. They didn't have their own language, though, but they definitely had customs. I mean, Marva's funeral was very well thought out.
Oh, yes. The world building is tremendous in Andor. Regardless of whether or not we're seeing, prop department and Walmart during the end credit, regardless of that, it doesn't even matter. That doesn't even matter, Swank. It's the richness of the storytelling that's being told and the world building that's happening, which I think is expansive in Andor. And I think no stone has been left unturned. I'm really very impressed by the way that Tony Gilroy has run this entire operation. And I really hope Lucasfilm and the Disney Corporation were taking notes while they were watching this sucker work, because he's a machine and works with absolute focus, direction, and competence. Yeah. That's what I think about Tony Gilroy. He's like a man's man when it comes to filmmaking. And I think Hollywood needs a lot more of that. A lot more of that.
Something that we didn't bring up in the after show, last night, is Edie sitting there in that hair dryer. That was definitely and with the curlers and all of that. That was a little real world. But you know what? I'm starting to. I got to tell you, I'm starting to soften on that stuff because, the more time you spend in a place, and by place I mean the galaxy far, far away, the less exotic it's going to seem. It's going to become more commonplace to you. So that's one of the ways that I sort of justify it.
You're just throwing your hands up in the air saying, I submit? And that's what it sounds like to me.
I'm not submitting anything. I think I'm just being realistic that the more time that you spend in a place, the more limited they're going to be in terms of having to create something so fresh, so new, unlike we've never seen before. I think that's unrealistic when you're talking about hours and hours and hours of television and content like this. I think George could kind of do it because what did he do? He made a film every 3 years and then had like a 16-year gap and then made 3 more every 3 years. This is a lot different. So I if I sat there and worried about every button and every zipper,
you're being realistic about it.
I gotta be realistic.
And by the way, I've not seen a button nor zipper in Andor season 2.
I haven't really.
So bite your tongue.
What? If there was one, I wouldn't even notice it. But anyway, back to Edie. Sounds to me like Edie is a delight for Tony Gilroy to write for. And
oh my God.
It's a great character.
How much fun.
You get the sense that even he didn't realize how great it was until they cast Catherine Hunter, who's just phenomenal and just eats up the scenery every time she's in a scene.
Well, when it comes to a production like Andor, it truly does take a village. And Catherine brought a ton of village with her when it came to being on camera and taking these lines that Tony Gilroy wrote for her and making them absolutely delicious. Edie is a marvelous character, and her portrayal is perfection. Chef's kiss. So Tony does talk about Edie and Andor.
Last night it was Luthien, and tonight it's
Luthien.
Endor. You just keep shipping all these characters together, Jim. These are Jimmy Mac mashups. Endor.
I'm mashing it up.
Maybe we'll get a new series. Endor. The Adventures of Edie, a Star Wars story. Could find out what happened to that good-for-nothing husband of hers that ran off looking for adventure.
You've always disappointed me, would be the subtitle of it. Well, let's hear what, we're laughing so much just even talking about Edie. A brilliant mind like Tony Gilroy must have cherished the opportunity to write dialogue for this character and create her. So he talks a little bit about Edie in Andor Season 2.
There's nothing more fun than writing Edie. It took a long time to get her voice, and Danny started it, and then we sort of passed it back and forth, and then finally one day it just really clicked in, and Catherine Hunter came in, and once we got it, man, she's just a gas to write. Look, what's really fun is that we could do this huge crescendo where is Cassian going to make it back in time to save everybody, and Mon Mothma's just put the finger on Tay Kolma, and her daughter has completely just brutally upended her. She's really on her ass. And the wedding is coming to all these horrifying conclusions. And at the same time, I'm saying, you know what's just as heavy as that? Edie's visiting for lunch today.
Edie's visiting for lunch day. That's just as scary. That's just as horrifying. Hey, you married folks, you know what I'm talking about with the in-law and the mother-in-law. I mean, I don't know that Tony really created her to be the mother-in-law from hell, but that's exactly what she is. Edie is the mother-in-law she's the mother from hell, but imagine just, the mother-in-law meeting her. But you know what, though? What's so beautiful about it is the way that Dedra handles it. And she takes all the bite and all the sting out of Edie in that dinner scene. And but you know what? Look, she's still irritating. We see her in the second block, and but you know what? Did you notice that she's a lot more? I should say she's a lot less critical of Cyril than she was. There's a few lines where she says, "Why would you want to be on Gorman?" But she spends most of that conversation.
She compares him to the spider. I mean,
she compares Cyril to the spider.
She does. Really? She says that he gives her that little spider figurine. She's playing around with it and starts this rap about how the spider reminds her of Cyril. And
all right, take it all back. Then what was so what was all that tough talk from Dedra? I guess she didn't take it very seriously because she's back to her old ways in the second block.
Dedra was not in the room at that particular moment.
Well,
I mean, Cyril was on his own. Dedra promised him that he would have contact with Edie twice a month, and the spirit of the conversation would be in line with
the time that they would spend with her would be in inverse proportion to the anxiety that she gives them.
Right. So if she's being rude and crude, so after watching this moment in the second arc with Cyril in the breakfast nook, eating cereal, listening to his mom berate him, the next phone call will probably be 2 minutes, because it's in direct proportion to the amount of anxiety
I hope
she presents Cyril.
I want to see the tit for tat. All right. I want to see that happen.
I want to see Edie face down with Palpatine and a lightsaber. And she pulls out, she's a Jedi all of a sudden. Holy smokes, Edie's a Jedi. That to me would be the most thrilling thing this show could do. I know very outside the box. Yes. I am the Republic. You could hear her say, Edie, the Jedi.
Not in Tony Gilroy Star Wars, I tell you that.
She has a green blade. No, purple. She has a purple blade, and she's a full-on Jedi, and a saber duelist like you've never seen before. That's what I predict. Is that what I predict is going to happen with Edie.
That could be the thumbnail for this week's episode.
Well, no. The thumbnail should be the post-credit scene when Edie is sitting in the bathtub with Elephant Boy from Skeleton.
All right.
And the bubbles.
All right, we got one more thing here. This is Tony Gilroy talking about Cassian and his sister. Now, this came up. We talked about this. What happened to Sister? It was one of the very first little threads that got tossed out to us at the very beginning of season 1 when we first meet Cassian. And people have speculated, who is this sister? Will this ever pay off? Will we know? Is this going to be like a Fox Mulder thing on from X-Files, looking for his sister? How much is that going to inform his character, and how much, will we ever see a reunion? And Tony Gilroy, for better or worse, listen up, everybody that's speculating about who Andor's sister is going to be. Well, I think Tony pretty much definitively answers it here in this clip.
I think in the very, very beginning, when I was developing season 1, I know for a fact that I sketched, sketching all kinds of things. I sketched a very melodramatic, version of the reunification with the sister and whatever.
Yeah.
But what I realized by the time we got to the end of season 1, I realized that, and I think this is a really good, writing idea, her absence and the unresolved quality of that is so much more valuable to me in forming Cassian's character, because people will see, I don't want to spoil anything, he's constantly, and sometimes ill-advisedly so, returning to save people. There's a savior complex that's baked into him that is really easy to understand from this absence from his childhood. So her utility as unresolved, and we all have things that are unresolved in our life, so it's natural, but her utility is way more important to me as an unresolved absence in his life than she ever would be as some cheesy, coincidental or some cheesy reunification.
I got to hand it to him. He keeps it real. He's calling it like it is. To do it would be cheesy. And he's already got other reunions that are going to take place. It kind of has me wondering, what other reunions has he got up his sleeve here? He says there's going to be other ones. And just to toss in the sister when we're really not invested in her character would just come across as schlocky and cheesy. And I think that shows a lot of restraint. It shows maturity. And yeah, you got a really seasoned guy here that knows when to hold him and when to fold him. And in the case of Cassian's sister, he's holding them. He's folding them, I should say.
So Cassian's sister becomes the truest definition of the term MacGuffin. It doesn't matter. It just simply doesn't matter. But I have problems with that, because the entire foundation of the show, the entire motivation that Cassian displayed to us in the very first episode, of the very first moment we see of Cassian, he's trying to find his missing sister. And to just to me, this doesn't appear to be restraint. This appears to be copping out. I'll be honest with you. It's copping out. Why even plant the seed? Why even plant the seed? You could find 1,000 ways.
But he said that at the time he wrote it, there was going to be a reunion. But as they got closer and closer, and they were working on season 2, he had other more important reunifications, as he called them, to bring into the show. And one more just wasn't it. And he thought that by having that missing sister out there, that, along with some of the guilt that he felt for Marva and not being there for her in her final months or whatever it was, years, that was enough to establish that it was better for the character, for that to really establish his desire to save people. And we're seeing that with Bix. And you could draw some parallels. Does Cassian have an attachment problem?
That's very impressive you bring that up, Jason, because that is a very universal Star Wars theme. It's something that has reared its ugly head time and time again. The attachment thing. Where do you draw the line between loyalty and attachment? Things like that. These are very interesting questions that Star Wars has a real distinct way of promoting conversation about. And I find it really interesting that that's the avenue you went down, because I think it is as Star Wars as it gets quite honestly, at the end of the day. It's as Star Wars as it gets. How did we end up in that place to begin with? It's the brilliant way George Lucas took all of these vastly different methods of storytelling and put them into a mixing pot. You know, that's how we ended up here to begin with. People tried to define the approach to Star Wars that Lucas took and go, oh, it's the Western. Oh, it's Kurosawa. Oh, it's the samurai. Oh, it's science fiction. I mean, there's all these different approaches. That's what's so madly complex about Star Wars. Why we keep coming back to it time and time again is because it presents us with these type of questions, which are never part of our rundown here on RFR, believe me. And this is the stuff that we're always trying to tap into, though, at the same time. Be it indirectly a lot of times, but it still presents these incredibly complex scenarios. So, and you brought up a great one at this moment, the attachment thing. How damaging is it to be attached? And where do you draw the line between loyalty and attachment? And is there a line? Or
I think when you get to the point where you don't want the person, or if you see just the person that you're attached to living their life as a threat because they might get hurt or they might get killed, when you want them to stop living and wrap them in bubble wrap the way Cassian wants to do with Vic, the way Anakin wanted to do with Padme, that's when it becomes obsession, and that's when it becomes really selfishness that's sort of disguised as loyalty.
That's such an interesting wrinkle in the fabric of Star Wars. It's like, wow. And people will go, well, how do you talk about Star Wars every week on a podcast? I mean, you're just talking about a movie, right?
Little do they know.
You're thinking small, you're thinking like a thief.
I'm thinking like a soldier.
Think like a leader.
Rebel Force Radio.
Hey, can we hear one clip from George Lucas? He made an appearance. I was really surprised by this incredible George Lucas appearance for Turner Network.
Turner Classic Movies. Yeah, they were doing a screening of The Empire Strikes Back. And, we were talking about re-releases, and it's hard to believe, but Empire, Jedi, all of the prequels have had, and even Rogue One have had re-releases.
Not Attack of the Clones.
Clones has never had a. Let me see here. You're right.
Well, I think that might change now following the Revenge of the Sith success.
You're right. Clones hasn't. So Clones and A New Hope, in addition to the sequels, but you can't really count them because they're so new in Solo. But my God, Rogue One got a re-release. A New Hope. But they just, these screenings, there's always the Empire screening. Jedi just had a re-release, and I know Empire is considered, the top of the heap when it comes to quality Star Wars. But I'd love to see a re-release of A New Hope. I really would. I think we'll get it in 2027. We'll get it with the 50th.
I'm sure we will. Yeah. Like I referenced to earlier in the show, in 1997, the special edition releases were very impactful. Yeah. Very impactful on a maturing Star Wars audience and a newly emerging Star Wars audience at the same time. And I really hope that this re-release of Revenge of the Sith has the same effect on film goers. Yeah. It's something to scratch the itch for the old-time fans, but really holds the door wide open for the younger generation. Oh, that's the origin of Darth Vader. I have to learn more.
Yeah.
Wait, I could watch this movie when he was a little kid and an expert speed racer. I could watch that. I could watch.
But think about, wait a minute, in 97, when the special editions came out, we had VHS, but we didn't have streaming. I mean, for a movie like Revenge of the Sith to come out to theaters, make the money that it did at a time when it's just a faucet. Go turn it on. Here comes Star Wars,
Yes.
spilling out of it. Very, very impressive. It really is. And I think that prequel generation, I think they deserve their own special edition season. I would love to see all three get re-released to the theaters and give them the moment that we had back in 1997. I'd love to see.
Mad props to the prequel generation. You guys are doing it. I always knew you would. And congratulations. You're on the Mount Rushmore of Star Wars. The prequel generation rocks.
So which of these George clips do we want to do here? They're both good.
I think just number one.
Okay.
Because this is the one that's received a lot of attention online. George Lucas appeared at this event and he was talking a lot about how he rose up in his career from being an intern who shadowed Francis Ford Coppola to winning Coppola's attention and appreciation and eventually rising up to be the guy who created THX 1138, then American Graffiti, and finally his greatest success at Star Wars. And during, they're there to see Empire Strikes Back, and you could tell the dude who was interviewing George was like, "Can we finally get to Empire Strikes Back?" Yes. You are talking so much because George was doing a lot of boilerplate discussion.
He really was.
I think
he was like reading off his autobiography. And Finian's Rainbow, and then Apocalypse Now,
the Rain People, Rain People. Right. I mean, the whole shebang. I mean, the whole rise of George Lucas was really what George wanted to concentrate on. But the audience is there for Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
So the interviewer, he finally guided George into the realm of Empire Strikes Back in the final 5 minutes of this 25-minute conversation.
You got 25 minutes with George Lucas. Right. You ask him one question, the first question, and he goes off for 20 minutes, giving you his resume as if you
I mean, it really was that. It really was how George rose. And like I said, boilerplate stuff.
Right. There was nothing. There were no revelations. There was no. I never heard that before. But this one's interesting. This is.
It was essentially George Lucas. It was George Lucas in his 80s taking a victory lap, which no one is going to stand in the path of that victory lap, my friend. And so they finally get to talking about Empire Strikes Back toward the conclusion of the interview, and the dude asked a question. I think a lot of us have been wondering, why does Yoda talk that way? And George responded with this answer.
Yoda had a very distinctive way of talking. Because, and it was done purposely because if you were speaking regular English or people don't listen that much. But if he has an accent or it's really hard to understand what he's saying, they focus on what he's saying. And what he was basically the philosopher of the movie. Right. So he was talking about all of the things, in long talking scenes and stuff where I had to figure out a way to get people to actually listen, especially 12-year-olds.
All right, I'll give it a try.
No, try not. Do or do not. There is no try.
So you were worried that if he just said it regularly, it would be boring and kids wouldn't listen.
That's right.
So you're just like, I'll just switch some words around.
You're hired.
Oh, fantastic.
That is so brilliant. They're laughing it off, and of course we take it for granted because it's just so part of the fabric of popular culture. Yoda. I mean, everybody knows Yoda. Even people that might not be able to say his name, but they know the syntax and the way that he talks. That's no small thing for George to have that awareness. But there's a part of me that wonders if some of that might not have been informed by his collaboration with Jim Henson. I wonder if it's possible that some of that could have come from Jim. Because I know he consulted with Jim Henson. Obviously, that's what led him to Frank Oz eventually. But
yeah, right. He wanted Jim to be Yoda.
Yes, he did.
The Muppet franchise and the Star Wars franchise started to bounce back on each other in a very profound way. And you see it with Yoda, and you see it with films like Labyrinth and Dark Crystal.
Yeah. So it just makes me wonder. I mean, not taking anything away from George. He's fully capable of that kind of brilliance. But man, oh man, when I heard it, it's like, it's so simple, but but yet it's the perfect explanation. Why does Yoda talk that way? So that people will listen to him. And you lean in and you want to understand what he's saying.
Yeah, but little did we know in 1999, we'd be leaning in a lot more when it came to Jar Jar Binks, where George took that idea.
Yes.
He took that simple idea.
Yes.
And put steroids to it in the form of the Jar Jar Binks Gungan syntax, which still to this day has turned my brain to scrambled eggs, quite honestly.
That's the one that he was writing down little things that his kids were saying, Jet especially, Gungan.
Yeah.
Gungan itself was a word that he heard Jet say when he was just
They'll really lean in and listen when you say Gungan. They're going to lean in and listen, these kids, these kids with their short attention spans. They're going to lean in when you say Gungan. Misa booping, beeping, bopping, they're going to lean in to get the message. But I mean, he really did double down on that idea, the amazing consistency of George Lucas, these ideas that spring to life in his mind. And then we get little tastes of it in earlier versions of Star Wars via Yoda in Empire Strikes Back, but then fast forward almost 20 years later and you're getting Jar Jar Binks taking that concept and moving it up to the highest level possible. It's like, how far can I push that idea that I had? These are all ideas a single individual had and decided to, it's creativity on parade. That's what George Lucas does. And people sometimes shit on him for the creativity that he provides.
Yeah.
He oozes creativity. I find so much inspiration from George Lucas in the way that he approaches ideas and the way he doesn't let an idea die on the vine. He finds that absolutely unacceptable. Even if the decades pass by, if the idea is still on the vine, he's going to pluck that idea and ferment it and make it into a marvelous piece.
Well, you know what they say, the guy on top of the mountain takes all of the arrows, and George Lucas has taken plenty of arrows, but at the end of the day, he's the guy that's on top of the mountain for sure. Oh, what a week here at Rebel Force Radio Central. My goodness, it's been a great one. Andor Season 2, if you're not watching, you just give it a shot. Give it a shot. I'll say this about Andor. I'll say this about Acolyte. And I'll say it about Clone Wars. I'll say it about Rebels. The only thing I won't say it about is what was that animated series that they did?
The Resistance.
I'm not going to say it about that. I can't recommend that to anybody. I'm sorry.
Just you wait. Just you wait. The Resistance generation's going to come around and they're going to come to age. And you're going to be eating their dust, pal.
I hope that I am dead and gone. I hope I'm in a brick like Marva.
Are you kidding me? I'll be hosting panels at their conventions.
I bet you will. Hey, don't forget to join us at the Forest Moon Festival, May 30th through June 1st. This really is going to be exciting. I didn't think I was going to get out to California at all this year, but it turns out I'm going to get out there twice between Forest Moon Festival and then our big event at Rancho Obi-Wan. But if you're out there in the Northern California area, again, those counties, you know who you are. The folks over there in Humboldt County and Del Norte. There's events scattered throughout. I don't know where we're going to be. I guess you need an app. You're going to need a Jimmy Mack and Jason Swank tracker app to find us, along with Kyle Newman. And I can't wait. I can't wait to see Return of the Jedi in the Redwoods. Are you joking? I mean, I never.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Holy smokes.
And then there's going to be a screening of Fanboys with Kyle. It is just going to be a happening. So check it out. Go to their official website. I got the address here.
ForestMoonFestival.org.
Thank you. .org. That's right. ForestMoonFestival.org. And they're on all the socials, Facebook and Instagram and all that. Also,
we'll spread the links around.
Yes.
It'll be on our website, all that stuff.
And speaking of going out to California, as I mentioned, Rancho Obi-Wan, September 6th. Tickets will be going on sale later this spring for the big live Rebel Force Radio event at Rancho. It's going to be awesome. Don't forget, if you are a Patreon member, you're going to get first chance at tickets. So make sure that you're there. Become a member today. Patreon.com.
Do not hesitate.
Radio.
Show no mercy.
Exclusive podcast you can't get anywhere else, like the Q&A. You heard our caller earlier tonight. We're talking about the Q&A that inspired his call. The Babu Freaks, all that stuff you can find at Rebel Force Radio on Patreon. You can also watch us on YouTube. All of our after shows are exclusively streamed on YouTube. So subscribe, like, comment today. YouTube.com/Rebel Force Radio. We're also on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on X. The official website for all things and everything, Rebel Force Radio, rebelforceradio.com. Please support the podcast through the Patreon, or this costs you nothing. Just keep doing what you're doing right now, which is listening and recommending it to your friends, the Star Wars fan in your life that maybe hasn't heard of Rebel Force Radio or Star Wars podcasts. So please, subscribe. Leave a review if you can. We just have one simple rule, please.
Make them good.
Rebel Force Radio will return next week. We'll be talking about Tales of the Underworld and ILM Light and Magic Season 2. So you talk about a binge-tastic weekend. Tales of the Underworld, ILM Light and Magic Season 2, and then we're going to have Andor Block 3.
Wow.
I need a Rebel Force Radio for me to keep up with all this stuff. Where's my RFR? That's right here.
Yeah, it's so true.
All right. So until then, until next time, for Rebel Force Radio, I'm Jason.
I'm Jimmy Mack.
And remember,
the Force will be with you, always.